The title of this video is not clickbait. The Canon R5, for all its quirks and issues, I believe could well be the best all-in-one stills and video camera right now. There's no headphone jack on this camera. In these videos, I'll talk about my own history with Canon DSLRs, how they fell behind, how the release of their comeback cameras, the R5 and R6, didn't go to plan, why I still bought the R5, the huge frustrations of the early days using it, and how things improved, and what makes the camera so special, how it compares to the competition. So there's a lot to cover, so that's why I decided to split it across two videos. I shoot video professionally, but I'm also a very prolific photographer. In fact, I probably shoot more stills than video. So having a camera that does both really well all in one is important to me. I think the Canon 5D Mark II was probably the first camera that I owned that did this. For the CNN global travel documentary series The Wanderlist, which I started filming back in 2014, I carried a medium format Pentax 645Z camera around my neck everywhere I went, as well as the Sony FS7 video camera for shooting the main video, and also the Sony A7S for low light and gimbal work. I needed a nice big sensor with high resolution for lots of detail, as these were places I'd probably never go to again. So I want to make sure I got the best possible photos of them. If I'm filming and the camera I'm using doesn't take great photos, then I'm going to make sure I bring a really good stills camera with me. Always. It was a bit of a pain, literally, as it was a good 2 kilograms plus around my neck depending on what lens I had all the time. But it was worth it. If only the video from that camera wasn't absolutely atrocious. I'm not new to Canon cameras, I've had them a very long time, but if we ignore the compact Ixus models and just look at the actual proper 35mm DSLRs, the first one I bought was the 5D Mark II in 2009. The video cameras, I think the first one was the C300, and then the C100, and then C200. Quite a few. And the C200 actually I still use. Well, I have until recently been using it. I've been using it a lot over the past 2 or 3 years. It's been one of my main documentary cameras because of its superb video autofocus. For shooting interviews, which I'm conducting, it's an absolute joy. In fact, we use the C200 to film my last MZ Masterclass filmmaking for photographers. So yeah, I love Canon cameras, but they've also frustrated me greatly as time went on. The 5D Mark II was revolutionary. The 1DC was a stunning 4K DSLR, which was insanely overpriced for what it was, but it was my favourite camera for quite a long time. And then I said bye-bye to that, and hello to the really impressive 1DX Mark II. And it was that camera that gave me my first amazing video autofocus, complete with superb touchscreen tracking, as well as a gorgeous image. It's just a shame it was stuck in an old-fashioned DSLR body, because by that point, which was 2016, I'd really gone off those, because I'd been using the Sony mirrorless cameras.
Check this.
ones with internal 4K, full frame, no crop, and they're wonderful EVFs. No need to use a Skiathos Z Finder or anything else. It just held it like you were taking photos and shooting video. Wonderful. The camera that pushed me away from using Canon stills cameras was the 5D Mark IV. Whilst a nice camera, I didn't feel like it was up to the job for video in 2016. Still in that awkward for video DSLR form factor, that took great stills, but with a massive 1.75 times crop in 4K. That was a total deal breaker for me. Look, the magic of the 5D line was always that full frame video. That was the magic that started the whole DSLR revolution. We put up with the difficulties of shooting video with it because there was nothing that came close to it in a traditional video camera format. And when they finally brought 4K to 5D, to crop it so heavily and therefore lose that magic meant it was the first 5D that I sadly didn't buy. I know many people will say, just stop messing around with cameras which aren't designed for video and just use proper video cameras. Well, I do. I just use them both. And as my main work is in documentaries, I really like having a small body for when I want to film nice and quickly, as well as not draw too much attention to myself. They're also the cameras I use when I'm using 3-axis gimbals. I don't like putting big cameras on those because it's painful. So that was when I switched to shooting with the Sony A7 line, almost exclusively, with the A7S II and the A7R2, really terrific cameras. But I really hoped Canon would come back with a full frame camera to compete, 4K without a crop, and it needed to be mirrorless. Well, they finally did bring out a mirrorless, the EOS R. Nice body, shame about the crop. And it was a 5D Mark IV in a mirrorless body. I did buy it in the hope I would like it, but the 4K crop was dreadful. I think it was like 1.8 times. So it sat in my drawer, barely used. Very disappointed. Yes, finally, in 2020, with much fanfare, they announced the R5 and R6. You probably already know this is his recent history. The R5 was the headline grabber with its 8K internal RAW recording and 4K 120 frames per second, as well as a 45 megapixel sensor for shooting stills. This sounded perfect for me.
Some said you'd lost your edge, but you know the game isn't won at half time. The game is won by beating yourself. Persistence keeps you going. No matter what the bumps, this is where you belong. And when you own the game, you can change the game. Introducing the first Canon 5 series mirrorless camera, the all-new Canon EOS R5. A new game is about to begin. Are you ready? Game on.
Canon cameras have traditionally had mediocre specs on paper, but in practice, when you get the cameras, they've been great. Certainly was like that with the C300. It was very meh when you saw what they did, and then you got your hands on the camera and it was great. So when we had the R5 specs being so crazily good, it was just very un-Canon. There had to be a catch, and sadly there was. On release, the camera had abysmal overheating issues, which made the 8K, the 4K HQ, and the 120 frames per second 4K modes impractical to use. And it wasn't just that the overheating warning shut down the camera quickly. It was the fact it took so long for the camera to be usable again. You would literally not be able to use it for a good couple of hours to get another 15 minutes or so of, say, 8K out of it. In fact, just taking stills and having the camera turned on and going through the menus ate into the timer that showed how long you'd got left shooting before it switched off. I'm not going to go into the whole, was the camera crippled deliberately to protect the cinema line thing, or was the timer artificially shutting it down? I just leave that to the others. Just for me, I was really disappointed. I knew it was too good to be true. So I bought one. I know some people will say, just get to the point, but I like to make videos that give you context, give you a much richer understanding of where I'm coming from. And it's the style of the videos I've become known for, and having your own style is so important. Skillshare, who are the sponsors of this video, have a number of classes that caught my eye about this subject.
Hey everyone, my name is Thomas Daher, and I'm one of the main editors for a YouTube channel called Yes Theory, which has over 5 million subscribers right now.
He explains clearly and concisely all the beats you need to hit to keep your audience engaged. I'm not saying you should stick to what he says, but understanding these 5 acts, as he puts it, will point you in the right direction to find your own unique style. There's so many courses on Skillshare that are fascinating. They're not all going to appeal to you. Some things are going to have no connection to you at all, and some will really inspire you. So if you're interested, the first 1,000 people to use the link in the description below will get a free trial of Skillshare Premium membership, and after that, it's only around $10 a month. Where was I? Oh yeah, the R5. Sorry. I've already said that I've wanted a 4K uncropped, full-frame Canon mirrorless camera for years with great photo abilities. I didn't really need it, but it certainly did offer a couple of things that really appealed to me. Firstly, and most importantly, the autofocus worked on cats and dogs and most other animals, not just in stills, but in video. And that was key. Right, Bert? Yes. The Sony Animal Eye autofocus is really good, but it is limited to stills only. And I've been nagging them about it for ages, but there's been no sign. I even got a petition going. Hasn't helped. The autofocus of the R5 looks so good in this regard for me. Not just because I like to take photos and shoot a bit of video of my cats, but because I actually started a whole new YouTube channel, which was entirely cat focused. 1 man, 5 cats. And it's actually doing pretty well. I just need to make more videos for it. I've just been too busy with this channel. So it made total sense. So having that, and also having a camera that shot great 4K video, well, when it wasn't overheating, and really good quality stills, was just too tempting to just ignore. I really just hoped that they would sort the issues out, or that the issues wouldn't be as bad as were reported. They were. If you ignore the fact that when it came out, you could absolutely not use the video for professional work, as it was just too unreliable, the video in 8K and the 4K HQ mode, absolutely stunning. And the photos too are amazing. I know a lot of people will say you don't need 8K. True, I don't need to shoot 8K for most things, but I find it really useful for certain things. Now, I've actually used it for quite a few things. Take this video I made about LG TV. There's a shot at the beginning where I'm on the TV and I'm watching myself on the TV. I still have it in my bedroom 2 years later. And then I gradually digitally pull out to reveal that I'm filming the TV. And that was because it was 8K and I started cropped in and then I digitally came back out again. I turned on my 4K TV and I put on my glasses. Yeah, definitely better. Idiot. The only way I could have pulled this off without 8K would have been to have physically moved the camera with like a slider, something like that. But the 8K worked so well, and it showed off the quality of the LG OLED screen really well. And it also showed off just how impressive that 8K image is. In fact, if you watch the video, there's so many shots in there which were shot with the R5 and in 8K, so I could use that extra ability to really crop in there. All the shots of the pixels on the TV done with a lower macro and then really cropped in to get this super detailed shots. And all the shots of my face, all the macros of my eyes, all done with the R5 in 8K. I started filming the shots with the R5 for this shoot on the 27th of August 2020. That date's important because the day before, Canon released firmware version 1.1. It had loads of little fixes, but the main one was it did improve the overheating issue. It did not fix it, but it did improve things, especially with the recovery times. Prior to this firmware update, there was no way I could have used this camera for what I wanted here. Because just having the camera on to get everything set up, getting your settings correct, making sure you're in 8K, making sure you're composed correctly, making sure the lighting is perfect, by which point your timer had probably gone down, giving you, if you're lucky, a minute or two of 8K before shutting down and demanding that you leave it for a good hour or so. This update definitely made things better, because prior to it, I'd never experienced a camera that was so utterly frustrating. I knew what it was capable of, but trying to get it to do it was incredibly hard. In part 2, you get to see me try and film the island of Skiathos in 8K with version 1 firmware.
I don't get it. The R5 has done 10 minutes of 8K and I put it away in the bag for about 75 minutes because it was saying I only had 5 minutes recordability left, and when I started it up again, 5 minutes recordability left. It's the recovery time that kills you with this camera.
Hi Nev! And really put the animal eye autofocus to the test.
Eat it that way round. Thank you.
We'll be looking at how well the camera fares with the latest firmware. Has it become a tool you can use professionally yet? And how does it compare with all the other cameras out there? But most importantly, you'll see how I slowly, very slowly, fell in love with the R5. Weird, huh?